that was held today. I'm Girish Khare. I'm the head of ACATs for QA and EILR sections at IMS. So, in a way, I am in charge of all the SIMCATs and the tests in Snap test pack and all the tests, basically practice tests that you take. Okay. Now, moving on to the analysis. As expected, there was no change in the pattern of Snap 2. There were 3 sections, there was no sectional time limit, and total duration was 60 minutes. This is one of the shortest MBA entrance tests that you have. Yeah. And the marking scheme was also remained unchanged, +1 minus 0.25. That is a negative marking of minus 0.25 for incorrect marks. Now, moving on to the overview of Snap slot 2, there were 15 questions in general English section, 25 questions in analytical and logical reasoning questions, and 20 questions in QA and DI sessions. So what we expect is a good attempts, 13 to 14 out of 15 in English, 18 to 19 out of 25 in analytical and logical reasoning, and 13 to 14 out of 20 in QA section. Okay? And the suggested time is, as you can see in the rightmost column. Of course, this is just a suggested time and not the actual time that you must devote. Okay. Now, moving on to the verdict. Okay. So this is what we expect based on today's test. A score of 40 to 42 should be good enough to get your call from SIBM Pune. That is the most coveted call among the Symbiosis institutes. A score of 40 to 42, and then 38 to 40 for SCM HRD Pune, and 34 to 35 for SIIB and SIBM Bangalore. Okay. Of course, these are the indicative cutoffs that we are expecting based on the feedback received from students in today's slot. Of course, as you know, Snap has 3 slots and they don't normalize. Snap says that they manage the level of difficulty in such a way that all the 3 slots are at par, but they don't normalize the scores. So all these cutoffs that we are talking about here might undergo slight change based on the 3rd slot. Okay, that's going to happen on the coming Friday. Now, moving on to the analysis of individual sections. Firstly, English section. This section was easy. Okay, as you can see, out of 15 questions, we are expecting good attempts of 13 to 14. So almost, except for a couple of questions, almost everything could have been attempted. And as you can see in this table, all the questions were easy, and these questions are dominated by fill in the blanks type of questions. It is grammar based. So 6 out of 15 questions were on that. Then 3 questions were on tense, active and passive voice and suffix and things like that. 2 questions were on idioms, and 1 question each were on compound words, synonyms, poem based, and identify a statement that makes a request. Okay, so this adds up to 15 questions. And as you can see, good attempts were 13 to 14. Then moving on to the analytical and logical reasoning section. So out of 25 questions, this time 10 questions were on verbal reasoning and 15 questions were on non-verbal reasoning. So this is slightly different from what we observed in the first slot. Okay? But like first slot, all the questions in the verbal reasoning, that is all the 10 questions in verbal reasoning, very easy. So out of these, 2 questions were on logical consistency, 2 questions were on course of action and decision making, and there were a couple of questions in miscellaneous, that is anagram based, etc. So those those were 2 questions of that type, and out of the remaining 4 questions, there was 1 question on statement and assumptions, 1 question on strong and weak arguments, one question on critical reasoning, that is conclusion, and one question on cause and effect. Okay? So as you can see, all the questions were easy, okay, out of this. And when it comes to non-verbal reasoning questions, what we found is the questions on non-verbal reasoning were definitely less painful than in the slot one. Okay, so that makes a good attempts of 18 to 19 questions out of 25. It is slightly more than what we saw in the analysis for slot one. Okay? So out of 15 questions on non-verbal reasoning, there were 2 questions on series completion. There was one set on circular arrangement, and both the questions in that set were easy. You know, it's just like some person A is sitting opposite to person B and things like that. So it was a fairly easy set. There were 2 questions on family tree. Although it was not directly family tree, but it was slightly twisted in the sense it also combined some coding part with that. So out of 2, one was easy and one was medium. There were 2 questions on calendar. Yes. So and then one was easy and one was medium out of this. And like in slot 1, there was one question on sequential output and one question on binary logic. So both questions were medium. And then there were 2 questions in numerical. Now, what do we mean by numerical is that in one question they had simply asked for the cube. So it was like an analogy kind of question, numerical analogy, as you can say, and they had just asked for a cube of a number. So it was fairly easy question. And then there was one other question that was actually a sort of a bottom-ask question, but they included it in the analytical and logical reasoning section. Okay, but only thing is that they said 4 raised to cube instead of 64. They called it something else. Okay, so that is up to them. And then coding, clocks, and visual reasoning. So there was one question on visual reasoning. There was one question on clock and one question on coding. So out of these 3, 2 were easy and one was medium. So we are saying good attempts of 18 to 19 questions out of 25. And unlike previous years, there was no question in this section which required understanding of physics. You know, so in the past there used to be some questions in this section that were physics based. That was not so in this section. And then moving on to the last section, that is QA, DI, and DS. Now, although they call this section as quantitative DI and DS, there was no question on data sufficiency. Okay, so and this section was mainly easy to medium, and we are expecting, say, out of 20, 13 to 14 should be good attempts, because as you can see, most of the questions are medium. There was one difficult question in modern maths, which is permutation combination based. There was also one question on probability under modern maths. So it was somewhere in between medium and difficult, depending on your level of comfort with those topics. So usually this section has a major contribution from arithmetic and modern maths topics, and this was observed in today's slot as well. So 5 questions out of 20 were on arithmetic and 4 were on modern maths. There are 3 questions on geometry, and there were a couple of questions on trigonometry. Okay, and both questions were easy. One question was based on angle of elevation and those kind of questions, height and distances basically. That was also a fairly easy question. And there was one question on numbers, simple HCF LCM based. There was one question on number grid. There were 3 questions on algebra. So 2 were medium, 1 was easy. And then there were 2 questions on data interpretation. So in data interpretation, there was one table given and some simple, it involved some simple calculations. Okay, so they're saying 1 easy and 1 easy to medium. So for the sake of this, we are categorizing it under medium. And then there was one question on number series, which was a medium. So a good attempt of 13 to 14 questions in this section should be good enough. And like in slot 1, in this in today's slot as well, so many students reported to us that there was some slight confusion between say pi and root 2, okay, or rather pi and square root sign. So where square root sign is supposed to be there, on some screens it appeared as pi. Okay? So just take note of this point, and when you go for slot 3 or snap, then be mindful that square root sign might appear as pi sign on the screen. Okay, so just be mindful of that. So before we wrap up, just let me just show this slide again. So a raw score of 40 to 42 should be good enough to fetch a call from SIBM Pune, 38 to 40 from SCMHRD Pune, and 34 to 35 from SIIB and SIBM Bangalore. Okay. So thank you and all the very best for your SNAP attempt 3 and as well as the remaining exams, and see you in GDPI preparation session soon. Okay. Thank you very much.